Hello students. This video is presenting information about getting feedback presented from the Writing Center at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So let's talk about getting feedback. First of all, why get feedback on your writing? Well, you'll become a better writer and writing will become a less painful process. When might you need feedback? You might be just beginning a paper and want to talk to someone else about your ideas. You might be midway through a draft and find that you are unsure about the direction you've decided to take. You might wonder why you received a lower grade than you expected on a paper, or you might not understand the comments that a teacher has written in the margins. Essentially, asking for feedback at any stage helps you break out of the isolation of writing. When you ask for feedback, you are no longer working in a void, wondering whether or not you understand the assignment or are making yourself understood. By seeking feedback from others, you are taking positive, constructive steps to improve your own writing and develop as a writer. What are some possible moments for feedback? There's no best time to get feedback on a piece of writing. In fact, it is often helpful to ask for feedback at several different stages of a writing project. Listed below are some parts of the writing process and some kinds of feedback you might need in each. Keep in mind that every writer is different. You might think about these issues at other stages of the writing process, and that's fine. First is the beginning stage, or the idea stage. Do I understand the assignment? Am I gathering the right kinds of information to answer this question, and are my strategies effective? How can I discover the best way to develop my early ideas into a feasible draft? Another one is the outline or thesis stage. I have an idea about what I want to argue, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate or a complete response to this assignment. Is the way I'm planning to organize my ideas working? Does it look like I'm covering all the information? Is my point clear? You can also get feedback on a rough draft. Does my paper make sense and is it interesting? Have I proven my thesis statement? Is the evidence I'm using convincing? Have I explained it clearly or given the reader enough information? And does the information seem to be in the right order? You may also want to get feedback on an early polished draft, asking questions like, are the transitions between my ideas smooth and effective? Do my sentences make sense individually? How is my writing style? You can also get feedback at a late or final polished draft to ask, are there any noticeable spelling or grammar errors? Are my margins and formatting okay? Does the paper seem effective? Is there anything I should change at the last minute? And even after the fact, how should I interpret the comments on my paper? Why did I receive the grade I did? What else might I have done to strengthen this paper? What can I learn as a writer about this writing experience? And what should I do the next time I have to write a paper? Asking for a specific kind of feedback can be the best way to get the advice that you can use. Think about what kinds of topics you might want to discuss and what kinds of questions you might ask. You might ask something like this: do I understand the task? How long should it be? What kinds of sources should I be using? You might ask about factual content, like, is my understanding of the course material accurate? You can ask about interpretation or analysis. Does my argument make sense and do I have a point? You can ask about organization. Are my ideas in a useful order? You could ask about flow. Do I have good transitions? You could ask about style. Is my writing style appealing? And you can ask about grammar. Do I have problems with subject-verb agreement, for example? You can ask about small errors. Are there any typos? So what are some possible sources of feedback? Well, one is yourself. Believe it or not, you can learn to be your own best reader, particularly if you practice reading your work critically. First, think about writing problems that you know you have had in the past. Look over old papers for clues. Then, give yourself some critical distance from your writing by setting it aside for a few hours, overnight, or even for a couple of days. Come back to it with a fresh eye, and you will be better able to offer yourself feedback. Finally, be conscious of what you are reading for. You may find that you have to read your draft several times, perhaps once for content, once for organization and transitions, and once for style and grammar. If you need feedback on a specific issue, such as passive voice, you may need to read through the draft one time alone, focusing on that issue. Whatever you do, don't count yourself out as a source of feedback. Remember that ultimately you care the most and will be held responsible for what appears on the page. It's your paper. Another source of feedback is your teacher. Your teacher is the most expert reader you can find. Your teacher can be the best source of information about what she's looking for on the paper and may be your best guide into developing you into a strong academic writer. The Writing Center is also a great place to get feedback. While the Writing Center staff may not have specialized knowledge about your paper topic, our tutors are trained to assist you with your writing needs. We cannot edit or proofread for you, but we can help you identify problems and address them at any stage of the writing process. Tutors in the Writing Center see many students each year and are familiar with all kinds of writing assignments and writing dilemmas. Some final thoughts. I want to encourage you to think about feedback on your writing as a way to help you develop better writing strategies. Don't look at individual bits of feedback, such as this paper was badly organized, as evidence that you always organize ideas poorly. Think instead about the long haul. What writing process led you to a disorganized paper? What kinds of papers do you have organization problems with? What kinds of organization problems are they? What kinds of feedback have you received about organization in the past? What can you do to resolve these issues, not just for one paper, but for all of your papers? The Writing Center can help you with this process. Strategy-oriented thinking will help you go from being a writer who writes disorganized papers and then struggles to fix each one to being a writer who no longer writes disorganized papers. In the end, that's a much more positive and permanent solution.